Good morning, everyone. This is Tim Bagwell with Two Grumpy Old Men. My partner in this podcast is Rich Garling. Rich, what's going on today?
Wow, we got all kinds of fun things going on here today, God, the list is long. The list is long. God, is it long? Uh, we got election day tests and voter sentiment going on. Voters in Virginia, New Jersey, New York City are heading to the polls, and they're offering an early referendum on Trump's leadership and policies. And as we know, his numbers are going down in the dumps. Trump's political operation is investing heavily in voter turnout for Republican candidates, while Barack Obama and Kamala Harris they're campaigning for the Democrats, and they're criticizing Trump's economic and governance record. We also got legal challenges and court battles going on. We got the Supreme Court going to be reviewing Trump's use of emergency powers to impose tariffs, a case that could very well redefine presidential authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, also known as IEEP. And I wrote, as you know, I wrote a blog post on all of this and the ramifications if the Supreme Court actually decides that Congress should be doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, so and we have a federal judge that ruled that Trump's appointed acting U.S. attorney in California was unlawfully serving, adding to more
I
legal
missed that one. I
setbacks.
knew that was up there. I knew that was up there. I missed the update.
Oh my
That's
God!
good to hear.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. And then Trump also faces pushback from Senate Republicans who have been joining Democrats, blocking his emergency tariffs, particularly on Brazil and a few other countries. Okay. Now we also got the government shutdown and SNAP crisis going on. The shutdown's entered its 33rd day, nearing a record for the longest in U.S. history. Trump is under fire for delaying SNAP benefits to 42 million Americans. In fact, there was a judge who recently said, "No, you got to pay those. You've got emergency money for it. Pay them." Okay, but he's asked the courts to clarify funding authority and conflicting rulings.
And,
All
and
right, so he's
meanwhile,
stalling.
and meanwhile, he's having a big party on the theme of the Roaring Twenties and the Great Gatsby's down at Mar-a-Lago, while 42 million Americans come up on being short of food.
Yes. And his critics are accusing him of selectively protecting political priorities while vulnerable Americans face food insecurity, as we call it. Basically, they're starving. And when you get down to it, and there was an interesting story I saw. Ask me about it later on online. I just was like going, it figures. Anywho, and then we got third term speculation and media distraction, as always. He stirred up controversy by musing about a third term despite constitutional limits. And analysts say it's a distraction tactic to deflect from current crisis. In
If that,
particular, all this stuff is to deflect from who is it, Epstein,
right.
and
Well,
everything
and
that's happening there.
he's got his sycophants out there like Steve Bannon,
Yeah.
saying that yes, we're looking deep into the third term possibility. Again, feeding the fire of distraction and all to keep everybody away from the Epstein files. Which I hate monarchs, but King Charles did something good on the Epstein related front with removing the prince title from his brother, and
Yeah.
because of his involvement with Epstein,
Hmm.
and it's hopefully a blip on the horizon of things to come here.
Well, that party he has. Okay, Roaring Twenties. We're gonna. I mean, they had I guess a huge martini glass with a young lady in it, laying in there with her legs kicking out and all that sort of stuff, and she's in a bikini and all this. I'm sorry, but if that doesn't lend one to look at it and go Epstein, you know?
Well, and you think of other countries. Finland had a young prime minister who was doing a good job, but she also was living the life of a 30 something, and of a single 30 something, and she had to step aside for just that infraction for a party she had or she went to in Finland, and it's just not becoming of a leader of a nation to be doing that kind of display. I don't want to sound like a puritanical person here, but when you're the leader of a nation, whether it be Finland, New Zealand, or the United States, New Zealand also faced that, but and unfortunately went a little bit more conservative. But yeah, it is not. It's unbecoming of of the president of the United States to do such, to have such a lavish party in the midst of this shutdown, in the midst of
Yeah,
people starving.
it's funny too.
They just don't care.
No, they don't care, and they'll point to, well, look what John Kennedy did when he, no, they kept it hidden. Yeah, he may have been doing, indiscretions, and he wasn't right in doing that, and that, I mean, you're a married man for crying out loud, and
Yes.
all this, but he kept it hidden. These guys, they're just out in the open and they don't give a damn, if anybody sees
Yeah.
it or not, and it's very much like the 1920s lavish kind of stuff where, the oligarchs of the day, were just going way overboard,
Yeah.
and that's what these guys are doing. They're just going way overboard. So that tests voter sentiment, really, when you get down to it. And we do have, some elections tomorrow.
Yes.
And that, because, I mean, in particular, it will be interesting. You've had your thoughts about the guy, Mandami running
Yep. In
for,
New York, Zoran. Zoran.
running for mayor.
Yes. And
Yeah.
he's,
So
the his Cuomo came out and said something about diversity could be a problem, and how can you say that in this in the city of New York? I think he's blown it. Oops, sorry. I think Cuomo has botched any lead he might have been hoping for. And Mandami, I think, is going to be elected, and the it should be interesting. Trump doesn't want him elected, but I think that's going to happen.
says he's going to
And
cut off money to New York City, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself about how a lot of the blue states, all of the blue states, practically, are pretty much, we give more money to the federal government than we take back. All
and
right.
that money, and we give more that goes and then goes to the red states that don't put money in.
Exactly. And who is it that gets a lot of SNAP benefits and Medicaid and all that? Well, it's the red states.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, and that lends the story too. By the way, thank you for reminding me. Um, I saw online a lady who gets a lot of Medicaid, gets a lot of SNAP benefits. Okay, I mean she gets what the law allows. All right, and all this, and she ends up being a Trump supporter, and so she decides that she's going to out her mother-in-law, who she asked for money for groceries because she's not getting her SNAP benefits, but she had voted for, but this lady had voted for Donald Trump and was a MAGA supporter to the hill. I mean, she was even wearing a MAGA hat trick, ran out loud, and everything. And she's all upset because her mother-in-law won't give her money for groceries. You're like going, really? Oh my God. I mean, that's how bad it is
Well, and it's
out there.
not to support her in any way, but the thing is that a lot of people have to come to their relatives then for support when they have
Yeah,
relatives who can help them.
yeah,
But the relatives, not all relatives are millionaires who can, not notice the money they're giving to their poor relatives. They're
yeah,
usually also similarly poor, but not as poor or not as wealthy. Not, yeah.
yeah. And then you saw Billie Eilish. Okay, did you see the statement that she made the other day?
Yes, to refresh my memory, it was on
She
the
was she was at a she was at a
billionaire.
fundraiser. She was at a fundraiser that had a lot of billionaires at it. Oh, okay, and I mean, you're including people like Bill Gates, Bill and Melinda Gates, and others. Now, Bill and Melinda Gates give a lot of money out. I mean, they've got their foundation out there that's doing some wonderful, wonderful work, with trying to find, cures for diseases and help people to figure out how to live lives better, and all this. And so they're doing great. But you get people like Zuckerberg, and they're claiming that they gave out, a bunch of money, and that and everything. But she basically shamed them.
Yes.
And then my understanding is that Zuckerberg, and I've only seen a couple things on this, and I won't say, let me take Zuckerberg back out of the picture for a second, but a bunch of these billionaires all took offense to what she said. They were like hurt. It's like, how dare you say that
Oh,
about us?
oh,
Poor babies, I know.
crocodile tears for the billionaires.
Oh my
They didn't
God, I
like
was
being they
just
didn't like being shamed in front of their in the public or in front of people. They
right.
yeah, because they know. She basically said, How did you become billionaires?" Was it something like that? She asked the
Yeah,
question, "Why are you
yeah,
billionaires?"
yeah.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
that
How'd
I
that
mean,
happen?
what are you doing with all this money? Well, when is enough enough,
Right.
and all that? And she's somebody who's in a position to do it because she's fairly wealthy herself, and all that. And everybody thought that she was going after who's that other female singer that's real big, Taylor Swift. They thought she was going after Taylor Swift, and she turned around and she told them, no, no, I'm not going after Taylor Swift. You know what this? I'm
Yeah,
going after billionaires in general,
yeah, yeah.
and that, and
And
these
if
people need
anybody
to
has
be
earned her $1 billion, it's Taylor Swift.
right,
Yeah.
right. And that. I mean, these
And
people like her and Billie Eilish. I mean, I don't know how wealthy she is, but she certainly earned her money because she's worked
she's
for
a
it.
performer.
And
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
and now that where you get somebody like Elon Musk, and I'm sorry, what the hell did he ever work for?
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
so there's
the creative professionals are, they have the ones that have good management, have procured good management, you know, uh, have earned their money and have managed it well, and much better than the rock stars of the, other than the Beatles and the Stones, of
uh-huh.
the 60s and 70s, so many who were exploited. And they see the exploitation, they've experienced the exploitation of corporate America trying to make money off of them. And it's bigger dollars,
Oh,
but they see the exploitation. They see the
big time.
exploitation even worse. Whereas the billionaires are apparently oblivious to the exploitation. They're
Yeah.
apparently, they want, more and more of their pie. They want to control more and more, and they have non-billionaire, allies in places like the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society that are in Project 2025, which is Heritage Foundation. Those folks have their own desires towards our country, towards what they want to see America be. It's
Yeah.
not good.
Nope.
And, no,
Nope.
yeah,
Yeah. And so voter sentiment, back to that, and when you get down to it, is not just New York City, but New Jersey, New York City, it's Virginia, excuse me, California. I mean, with Proposition 50, and it's and as I point out to my wife, who asked me these various questions about these things, and I say to her, look, I said, here's the difference between Texas and California. In California, they ask the voters' permission to
yeah,
gerrymander. In Texas,
yeah,
they just go ahead and do it.
yeah.
Okay, and that I says, and I says, and by the way, Illinois really isn't all that much different from Texas, And if anybody's an expert at gerrymandering, it's Illinois, you know, because we've certainly done our fair share of it.
I don't
And
know. I
be
guess there's still talk of it in Illinois, but I don't know how that map looks again. We've talked about this before. We just
Yeah,
I don't know what that map looks like, and I think it's a challenge that places like Texas and Missouri may have. They may not understand exactly what they're doing when they do the gerrymander. Illinois might be able to create may be able to create what it considers to be another Democratic district from other parts, but I don't know how it's going to happen. And I think when the Republicans try to do the same thing in places like Missouri, they don't understand what could happen. You
right,
know,
right.
right, right,
Well, the thing I'm always pointing out, and I point this out to my wife whenever she asks, and all that. Well, that means they're going to control it. I says, no, not necessarily. I go, and I'll point out to what was a red county at one time, and that was um, Lake County, Illinois. Back in 2010, the
yep,
Republicans controlled the county board, so they had control of how the districts for the county board were going to be mapped out, and they mapped them out accordingly. Okay, and that's so that it favored them. By the 2016 election, the county was controlled by the Democrats. It turned blue. All right, and on top of that, by 2018, we had all of the major countywide seats that were Democratic now instead of Republican. Republican is definitely a minority party. It gets down to message, folks. It's not how you draw the map. It's how you feel about what the heck is going
right,
on out
right,
there.
right, right.
And
And
that
when when
and
when Missouri cuts its map, I think they'll finding out that the SNAP and the ACA means a lot more to their
hmm
former Republican voters than they could have ever imagined.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
and we see that, by the way, in the polls. Okay, because the polls are continually showing, that they don't like what Donald Trump is doing. What was it? 67% of the country right now, according to polling, says, hey, we're going in the wrong direction. This is not what we wanted. Okay, and all that. But Donald Trump, of course, if you saw the 60 Minutes interview last night, which was a total joke, and I talk about, you know, it's funny. She seemed to be coming on hard to him, but you couldn't help but notice that they're still sucking up to him, and they're trying to turn 60 Minutes into a Fox News thing, kind of
yeah,
thing, and he's sitting there hitting back, being aggressive with the way he hits back, constantly interrupting her, and not letting her, come back with, hey, sorry, but you're not answering my question. And Nora O'Donnell, got to give her credit. She tried to do that, but I'm sure CBS is, keeping her hands tied, and everything. But him sitting there with oh no, hey, everything's rosy out there. The economy's humming right along, and all this. Nobody's starving and all this. And he thinks that, the violence that ICE is doing, well, they need to do more.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
it's like, really? Oh my God. The
uh,
guy's, that's
here's
not
what
the way it's supposed to be.
one of the things that amazes me about the SNAP crisis is that is the question. The numbers always quoted: 42 million people are on SNAP, and it's
Hmm.
like, why are 42 million people on SNAP?
Yeah,
What's the underlying basis of that? The
yeah,
underlying basis is no living wage for these people. They're
yeah,
not getting a livable wage, a
yeah,
livable income. You
right.
know, yeah, and this is why then this so the when you go to a Walmart, many of those people are on SNAP,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And
people are.
Walmart shows them how to do it. Walmart shows them how to do it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
See,
they go on Medicaid, they go on SNAP, and Walmart shows them how to do it.
probably why I heard one. I heard someone quote that a typical Walmart loses a million. I forget a large number shoplifting and pilfering. It's like, well, employees, and because they don't care because they're treated poorly.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
why not? I'm
yeah.
not going to say that
Oh yeah,
that's the case, but people who, if your kids are hungry at home, something's going to make it into the bag as you leave.
right,
All right,
right.
somehow,
And
some way.
that, yeah, and they have access to the back door, which doesn't have any kind of a detection unit on it, maybe or something. But they figure out how to do it. And
No,
and I'm not trying to blame, and neither one of us are trying to blame the employees of Walmart for the high theft rate that Walmart may have. But Walmart, you're right, they're
one second. Sorry.
So Walmart themselves is trying to, screw over their employees by not paying them a living wage, and telling them, here's how you get Medicaid. Here's how you
One
get.
second. One second. I'll be there. Sorry. I have a dentist appointment for tomorrow.
Oh,
Sorry. Sorry.
okay. So basically, yeah. So my feeling here is that as we see the polling numbers, and I'm hearing from people out on the street. I'll give you some examples. I was we had the last golf outing of the year for my one league. That is on Tuesday afternoons, and my neighbor and I, who is they're Trump supporters, but him and I are teammates in this golf league, and he we were out there, and I was with two other young guys, and the other two young guys were complaining about the high mortgage rates and the difficulty they were having in being able to buy a home. And if you recall, I did a blog post on the average price of a home.
Right.
And they were running into exactly what it was that I was talking about there, in that, in order for him to buy a home, he's got to come up with a huge down payment.
Right.
Right off the bat, you got a roadblock. It doesn't matter what the heck the interest rate is, on the mortgage. It's a fact that he's got to come up with, 20 to 25% of the value of that home. So you got a $435,000 home. Do the math. All right.
Yeah.
So then my neighbor, who's been without a job for 6 months, who is a QA guy, and that he was actually a director at one time, and all that. And he was complaining about how the job market just totally sucks
Oh,
out there.
yes.
He's
Yes.
he's he's having a tough time just trying to find a job, and I was just like, wow. So you're hearing this, and all three of these guys voted for Donald Trump and everything, and
They
I'm
did.
just like, but they weren't blaming Trump just yet. Okay, now but this was what back in September. This is when we ended, So now we're November. It's a different story probably by today because they're
Yeah.
beginning to realize that this is pure and unadulterated bullshit, and Trump owns everything that's happened here so far, and I
Yeah.
think that's the way. I'm hoping that's the way that public
Yeah.
sentiment's going to
They
go.
can't publicly. Some people have trouble publicly acknowledging that they're they're changing uh, they're disappointed in how they voted and they're changing their vote next time. And it's hard for them to say that, but they're going to go ahead and change their vote.
Yes,
And then they
I
will
believe so.
righteously claim. Then they'll righteously claim they didn't vote for that.
I, and I believe so. So
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
okay, we got the legal challenges that are going on, in the court battle, and particularly when it comes down to the tariffs. I wrote a blog post on this one here, and my prediction is that when if if they are literalist, like they claim they are in the Supreme Court, they're basically going to look at this and go, "No, Congress, you can no longer just pass the buck and expect, the executive department, to handle tariffs and do it correctly. It's your job to manage tariffs, not the executive departments." And they're going to turn around and tell Trump that what he's doing is illegal. Okay, if they're true literalists. But then again, they sit there and they're supporting things, that Trump has been doing, and they'll probably try to find a way, to let him continue to do what he's doing.
You know,
And
if you think about it, the way the tariff laws were originally done was that they wanted Congress to do it because tariffs could affect at the local level. If you do it at the federal level, then it's all about people who are trading. It's all about the people trading the stock exchange, the commodity exchanges, and their exploitation of the tariff situation. Because they can predict, they can do their gambling on in the markets based on whatever is going on in the tariff wars. And then, but with Congress has a hold of it, you have all the competing interests. I don't want my, they all have a reason not to have tariffs because their
yeah,
districts will be affected. That's why that was done that way. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, but the Constitution clearly says that's Congress's job, not
yeah,
the executive departments, and
exactly.
so and Congress has this habit, for the last 40, 50, 60 years, they have this habit of passing things over to the executive branch, and saying, here's your simple little guideline. Now, you do all the rest.
Yeah,
So the main load is on the shoulders of the executive branch and not on the legislative branch, which is where it's supposed to be, is on the legislative branch, not the executive branch, and that's according to the Constitution. Okay, and I can't disagree with it because of the fact that do we really want to have one individual deciding, at a whim, we're going to put a tariff on and we're not going to put a tariff. Remember you and I predicted, early on, when we first saw him going up and down with his decision on whether to do a tariff or not to do a tariff, and watching the market go up and down like a yo-yo. Okay, and all that, and you and I both recognized that exactly what it was he was doing was playing the market. And in
yeah,
2 weeks later, the newspaper started catching on, which of course they're always a little bit behind, on these things. And then a month after that, the market started catching on as to what was going on there.
starting
And
to
it's like,
ignore the tariffs. Although they're
yeah,
starting to set in, they are starting to set in a bit more now. So, but back to the back to gerrymandering or back to redistricting. Let's call it redistricting. It's interesting how there are so many I don't know how there's so much variety among the states. So we have a great opportunity in Virginia through the legislature. Apparently, without much help, without the Republican governor, who I guess is term limited, and then we have in Colorado, where it's apparently tied to the governor for the initiative to for the Democrats to move forward on it as Democratic governor, but he doesn't want to do it for some reason,
Hmm.
and maybe because of the risk, maybe because of the risk we were talking about. You know, Colorado has a lot of territory with voters scattered all over, so there may be a risk that he may be that he may be assessing, instead of getting on board. And I mean, if Republicans and Democrats are everywhere on board with mid-decade redistricting, who the heck knows what could happen? Who the heck knows what could happen with the?
Well,
Although I think we're going to do well. I think the
well,
Democrats are going to do well.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Colorado, I think most of the population is centered around Denver, right?
Well, yeah, it's sort of like Illinois in that regard, but even less so, because there is Aurora is part of the metroplex there, I think, but you have
Yeah.
Colorado Springs, and yeah, it's
Well, don't forget Durango. No, that's New
well, I
Mexico.
don't know if Durango's so big, but
Yeah. No, no. What
I'm
I'm trying
trying
to
to
think of the
remember
one in
what
what is it? It's in the southwest corner.
that's
Uh,
Colorado Springs, I think, is
is that
southwest corner.
okay? Yeah, I'd have to take a
Southwest,
look at
yeah.
a map.
Then
Yeah.
there's on 70 as you almost leave the state. There's a town that Grand Forks, I think. No,
Yeah.
Grand Forks. I forget. Yeah, there's a
Grand Junction, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. When I was there as a kid was a very tiny place.
Uh-huh.
Passing through on vacation, and it grew quite a bit. It grew
Yeah.
quite a bit. But Colorado is all a boom bust state. They're known for their booms and their bust, and
Yeah.
like their airport, kind of a bust right now.
Yeah, but they've always been fairly strong Republican, over the years, and
But
everything. Not
that's
necessarily
changed quite a
Democratic.
bit. And again,
Yeah.
you got Robert on
Roe
this
versus
there,
Wade.
and
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, and the decision that they and the ladies certainly got up and said, "Hey, what the hell you think you're doing?" And that's always. But here's the thing: we thought that would be a big issue, and it proved not to necessarily pan out for the Democrats in the 2024 elections, but the economy itself, and you and I had both have said it even back then. They're not paying enough attention to the
no,
economy. And that because when you get down to it, while I myself, I'm in favor of choice. Let people decide for themselves. It's not my business, and all that. Would I necessarily have an abortion, or would I approve of my wife getting an abortion or anything like that? That's something for her and I to discuss, not
right.
for anybody else to discuss.
Well,
Okay, and mind you, at my age, I'm not about to get one, or we're not about to get one and everything. But the point is that we paid so much attention to that we totally forgot. And this is the Democrats' fault. They totally forgot about the fact that, hey, we got people out there who don't think the economy's working for them, and rightfully so. The price of eggs was getting, out to be outrageous and everything. And the only person they were really hearing from, mind you, he was wrong. Mind you, he was lying to them, but Trump was the only one that they were
right,
hearing
right,
from,
yeah.
and
The
all this. And so that's why now it's even more important to be discussing what's going on with the economy here, and how the Republicans, like you were saying, with the quote unquote redistricting, are trying to control the vote. They're assuming that they draw these maps so that it shows more Republican voters in a district than Democratic voters, and they're assuming those votes. And that, my
yeah,
friends,
that's where they
is
get.
not a good thing.
Well, you mentioned choice, and a friend of my friend, our friend Steve Waterworth, who ran for Congress several times downstate Illinois, points out. You'll notice you're not hearing a thing about abortion.
Yeah.
Where's the national? Where he's going to make it a federal law, and because they got what they wanted, and they have gone no further, and they know that there would be more resistance, that they even lose more votes if they were to try to make it a federal law against the border.
Yeah, I've noticed they haven't. Well, with Congress closed down at the present moment. Well, I'm sorry, the House of Representatives closed down at the moment, and now that not likely that any action is going to be happening there either. And
Yeah.
that and I have to say that I find it interesting, that the new representative from Arizona,
Yes.
Mega Mike, yeah, Mike and Mike won't swear in, and his excuses are so damn lame. It's like,
Yes.
really? Where the heck did he come up with this stuff? The Republicans that we swore in before after a special election, well, they had their family all there and everything, and
Rich.
they had them, in the hotels, and you know how expensive hotels are and all this. And it's like, well, gee whiz, Mike, what? Do I need to bring my family to Washington D.C. in order for you to swear in this Congresswoman?
Yeah.
Really?
I think you're forgetting that the Republican Party has a secret department of lame ass excuses.
Yeah.
It does all this research for them. Does all this research for them. Because they are basically you heard of a lame duck Congress, right? Well, this is a lame ass Congress. They're
Yeah,
not up for
yeah,
election
and
yet, but they certainly are lame ass.
yeah, and it's funny too because we've now had two Congresses, that the Republicans have controlled here, and they still don't know how to frickin' govern,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
is just amazing,
It
and
perplexes them. If they know how to
yeah,
steal, they don't know how to govern, but they sure the heck know how to steal. That's
yeah, and they know how to tear things apart, but they don't know how to rebuild them back together.
yeah,
Take healthcare for instance. They're all sitting there going, "Oh, well, we'll talk about healthcare after, we do the
they get
continuing
through this.
resolution." And you're like going, "Yeah, right, pal. We've heard that one before." And then when you ask them, when Nora O'Donnell asked Trump last night on 60 Minutes if he had a plan, he couldn't come up with anything.
Right,
And he
right.
still doesn't. He couldn't even say that he had a concept of a plan.
Right.
He sat there with this, well, we'll work on it after we pass the continuing resolution. Well, what are you going to work on? What's your plan?
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, yeah,
Not a damn thing,
yeah,
and yet these people are sitting there, doing that,
yeah.
and that. So, and
Well,
then what was the other thing? Oh, well, I don't even want to talk about this third term speculation because
yeah,
that's
it's
just
okay.
that's
Yeah,
pure other bullshit.
we're not going to give third term a chance here because that's just more distraction, and
Yeah, yeah, and
he's not going to be around for that in many ways. The
yeah. And by the way, just so people are aware, this I'm real big myself on this legal challenges, particularly with the tariffs. And if the Supreme Court does its job and says, "Hey, Congress, you need to do your job," everything that they've done, that law is illegal, and everything that Trump has done is illegal, and all that. They've got billions and billions and billions of dollars. I think to the tune of roughly about almost $200 billion in tariffs that they've collected so far.
yeah,
Which, by the way, just in case you hadn't noticed, it's certainly not going to any of the SNAP, people, who need that money.
well,
But the
could
thing,
be paying for renovations, or it could be
yeah,
upgrading
oh
the
yeah,
features of the gift jet, or
yeah. Or yeah. So basically, what would the statement be? Let them eat a golden palace, you know.
right,
And,
right,
but here's the thing: he's going to have to pay all that money back because he can't keep it.
right.
You're
Exactly,
right, and, and,
exactly.
and that is going to create even more of a disaster, but in particular, I guess on their tax break, that
Yeah,
they want to give the one percenters,
yeah,
out
yeah.
there, who definitely
Okay,
need that. I mean, for
okay.
whatever
Well,
reason.
we're about up on our half hour. We're a little past
Yes,
our
we
half
are.
hour here,
Yes,
and
we are.
uh, again, thank you, Rich, and thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in to Two Grumpy Old Men and our many things that we gripe about.
Yes, yes. So, thank you, folks. Take
Sign.
care. Tim, we'll
Bye.
see you later. Bye.
Bye.